Hello, all, and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Dana Coolbaugh. Today, I want to talk about my 2025 reading list. And really, I have a lot of varied books on here this year. I have a lot of books from authors I've already interviewed so far at the for the start of season four, which really starts in the fall of 2024. And it's going to go all the way to really the fall of 2025 this year. So I try to get as many people who are going to be in season four or who are really at like the tail end of season three. I have a couple other books that are kind of spread out throughout that as well. A couple of people like I that just started reading their series, like things like that. So I want to get started here for book one, and that's going to be The Bitter Crown by Justin Lee Anderson. I read his first book, The Lost War, and I really enjoyed that one. It was one of my top three reads of 2024, which I have a separate video about. So please make sure you check that one out. Justin and I actually did an interview for season four. That will be coming out really soon. So make sure you take a look at that. Once that interview has dropped, you can find that schedule on any of my social media platforms. I'm going to put that on our website. All that information is going to be down below in the description, anywhere where you're listening or watching this podcast video. So I do want to talk about The Bitter Crown. I really enjoyed The Lost War in particular. It was really awesome. It was a great mixture of fantasy elements and some mystery. Just was a huge conglomeration of a lot of things I just absolutely love, and was a perfect recipe, I think, for an amazing book. And it was really a strong way to start the series. And in terms of the book two in the Eden saga. I just want to talk about The Bitter Crown, just the book description real quick. I'm going to do that for each of these first 20 books that I'm going to talk about in this part one video. So the description for Justin Lee Anderson's The Bitter Crown, which is book two in the Eden Saga, says a war once held in the shadows now escalates into full-scale revolution in the second novel of Justin Lee Anderson's Eden Saga. The fog of war is lifted and the conspiracy at the heart of Eden finally exposed. Now that they know the truth, Aryan and his allies must find a way to free a country that doesn't know it's held captive. But with divided loyalties and his closest friendship shaken, can their alliance hold against overwhelming odds? The quest to retake the country begins here. And I just want to talk a little bit for each book, but particularly this one, like why I'm excited. I absolutely love the cast of characters from the first book. I loved how you're reading the first book and you just know, and the characters know like something's not quite right. And it leads to just some fantastic elements of a story that Justin puts together. Excuse me. And he just does an amazing job of crafting this tale that I literally just flew through in like 3 or 4 days this summer. And he did an amazing job, I think, with the ending for book one, which I absolutely loved. And then in terms of how book two is starting, I did start reading and listening to chapter one and like the prologue and then chapter one right away after I finished book one. And then I got really busy and my own writing and things for 2024 as the things were wrapping up. So I'm really excited to get back to this one. I'm wrapping up a couple things right now for my book club book to get caught up, and then I'll be actually heading back with these characters such as Aryan, who was one of my favorite characters in the book. But this is one of those books with the cast of characters where it was really hard for me to pick a favorite character or a least favorite character. And that doesn't usually happen to me. Usually I'm like, oh, I love this character. I'm reading because of this character. This was just like the multi-point of view that's written from with the different parties. Like it was really hard for me to find like one character that I was just like, oh, this is like my favorite character. And that was just such a good feeling to have throughout book one. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into this story and see how these characters get out of this pretty crazy scenario from book one. So if you're into anything that I mentioned, then The Lost War and The Bitter Crown is going to be for you. But I, for one, am really excited to start it and then finish it up again here in 2025. The next one I want to talk about, and I already actually interviewed Abby Goldsmith twice, which is really exciting. And as of right now, actually, her fifth book in the Torch series just came out. And we actually discussed that at the beginning of season four here. So book five, Greater Than All, the fifth book in the Torth saga actually just came out. And I know that book 6 is coming pretty quick too down the pipeline. But I'm actually going to start. This is where I'm trying to get back to my sci-fi roots here. All right. And I'm going to go back and read Abby's Torth book 1, and that's called Majority. I absolutely love in both my interviews with Abby how we discussed just like how she set up the world, her writing, and the kind of things that she really focused on. And like I said, I'm getting back to some of my sci-fi roots here in terms of this current season for season 4, in terms of just like interviewing people, but also in terms of my reading as well. And it really comes down to the fact that I absolutely love sci-fi. Even before I found Star Wars, I was really big into sci-fi. I can thank my grandfather, my dad's dad for that, as well as my dad for getting me into things like Back to the Future, Buck Rogers, all sorts, Battlestar Galactica, the original one. Thank you. This different things like that. And I absolutely love sci-fi, so I'm really trying to get back to it this year, and that's why I decided for book 1 in the Torth series for Majority, why I decided that this book really had to be on my list. And I absolutely love both the interviews I had with Abby and how she explained her characters, the world. So really, those are the two things I'm like really excited about. Are the characters that she's mentioned, and just how she built the world in general, because it really sounds like my kind of sci-fi series. So in this action-packed space opera adventure, one disadvantaged hero must ask himself, how do you defeat a galactic empire that can read your every thought? The majority always gets what it wants. Thomas Hill just wishes it didn't want him. There's no way to escape a galactic mob of mind readers, no way for him to blend in with his foster family and other average Americans. Because Thomas invented a way to save his own life, his custom medicine halts the progress of his degenerative neuromuscular disease. Newscasters proclaim him the next Einstein, but mere humans have no idea his bioengineered processing capacity rivals that of a supercomputer. They think he's just smart. However, there are other bioengineered super geniuses in the majority. In fact, it's shepherded by them. Some, such as the teenager known as the Upward Governess, are secretly trying to devise opportunities to break free from social constraints so they can invent weapons of planetary annihilation and become unchallenged masters of all living things. If Thomas is going to end the utopian tyranny of super geniuses and the sycophants and slaves, he'll need more than cunning, he'll need social skills. Oh, and power. Lots and lots of power. It's a good thing his friendly foster sister has befriended a colossal superhuman. Ariak is oblivious to his own dangerous powers and wrongly assumes he's just an overgrown loser. Superhumans like him are doomed to die as entertainment fodder for the majority, unless Thomas can figure out a way to trick 30 trillion telepaths. So there's just so much here where I'm like, it's just my type of thing. So if I read that description, that sounds like your thing. You should be like me in 2025 and add Torth Book 1, the majority, to your reading list. And again, she has the series already written out. Book 5 just released as of January 8th, which I'm recording today. And the 6th book is also ready to go down the pipeline and will be released pretty soon. Moving on, I have another person that I actually interviewed already for this season as well. And that's going to be Ingrid Moon, and her book, The Handler's Gambit, just sounded absolutely amazing. So in terms of this book, first of all, if you look at the cover, like that's just my kind of thing. And the scene itself just really sets the mood for, I think, this duology so far. I know she's writing more, but I'm really excited to start this one, which is going to be book 1 in the Saxon saga. The description here: play the game, murder the innocent, don't let them see you sweat. Commander Boone's treacherous secret could save thousands of lives if he could only escape from the murderous warlord who employs them. That's really what made me interested in this book right off the bat, in this description. He wears his game face while following orders to destroy enemy fleets and handles a reckless assassin with elemental powers. Behind the scenes, he is undermining the warlord's pursuit of an innocent rival. The duplicity and the horrors are taking their toll. Boone wants out. In a bold gambit, he crafts a plan to escape, but his superiors might be catching on, and his plan is not without its own horrors. With everything working against him, including the woman he thought was his salvation, he may not live long enough to execute it. Space battles, biological magic, in quotes, ground assaults, betrayal, unlikely allies. The Handler's Gambit is a dark, character-driven thriller ride across the galaxy where the sacrifice is made for freedom clash with indomitable human spirit. I just love that when Ingrid and I talked about this earlier in season 4. We just talked about like what would it be like to be like the henchman for a bad guy and then not want to be the henchman anymore, being forced to do these horrible things, and then having a conscience about it and wanting out, and what that type of story would be like. So to me, that just caught me right off the bat. It's just something super, super cool. So I'm really excited to start the Handler's Gambit and to really study the characters in that relationship with how Ingrid wrote them, because it just sounds absolutely cool and really dynamic. So I'm really excited about that one. For my 4th book here for 2025, and I'm not doing these in order. It's just on my list. I can't do books in order like this anymore, because sometimes my tastes just kind of go back and forth. But I have a set menu, and I'm actually eating or reading the things around the menu. So I read the book 1, and the Wraith Knight trilogy by C.T. Phipps. Of course, I interviewed C.T. I think it was season 1 or beginning of season 2, as well as recently in season 4. So definitely, he's got a lot of really cool books. A lot of humor, but he really understands tropes. And like if you read Wraith Lore and you read book 1, for instance, you're absolutely gonna love it. I think if you really like ring race and things that are written from an interesting perspective. So Jacob Riverson has assumed the mantle of the king below and now rules over all the Shadowkind races. However, his desire to break the cycle of violence between the peoples of the northern and southern kingdoms is doomed. The 9 heroes will not rest until not just the Dark Lord is slain, but all of his followers. Jacob thus sets out on a daring but foolhardy mission to a great northern city in order to recruit an army of allies. He hopes to break the 9 heroes' army gathering there before it can be used against him. Unfortunately, that may divide his own forces. The Shadowkind, his wives, and secret forces beyond his own control want a war every bit as much as Jacob's enemies. What's a Wraith Knight to do? And one cool thing from book 1 in the series is that Jacob, I don't want to give anything away from book 1 because I absolutely love it, but his circumstances are very interesting, and how he comes about this heroic story in his heroic journey. And there's a lot of historical elements and things like that that CT uses, and it's a really cool series. So you guys should really just check it out. But I'm really excited to read book 2 in this series, and I can't wait to actually read book 3 as well if I have time this year as one of my extra bonus books, as I call it. Next is going to be Adrian M. Gibson with Mushroom Blues. You guys hopefully have seen this book around, the Hoffman Report, book 1. I'm actually about 40, or no, I think I'm about 60% way done with this book recently. The audio book just released, so I really needed that because I was really busy. So it's hard for me just to read the Kindle. So I do Kindle slash Audible, and I grew that way. But I kind of got stopped because I didn't have the Audible. But now that I do, and it's out, so make sure you guys check it out. I absolutely love the start of this book, so I'm really excited to get back into it, finish it up, and get my review out there on this channel. So Adrian is a finalist right now so far for the SBFBO 10, Mark Lawrence's competition. So please make sure, and he won another award recent. That's a finalist badge, so he's still waiting to hear if he's gone, if he's won the entire contest, things like that. So I know things are still progressing there, but there was a separate award that he had just won recently, so that was really cool. So make sure you guys check that out on his website. You can find both of our episodes from season 3 and the beginning of season 4 here on my channel. So the description for this one: enter the Fungalverse, Blade Runner, True Detective, and District 9 meld with the weird worlds of Jeff Vandermeer, Philip K. Dick, and China Mayville and Adrian M. Gibson's hallucinatory fungal punk noir debut. 2 years after a devastating defeat in the decade-long Spore War, the island nation of Hapan and its capital city of Neo-Kanoko are occupied by invading Caprian forces. Its fungal citizens are in dire straits, racked by food shortages, poverty, and an influx of war refugees. Even worse, the corrupt occupiers exploit their power, hounding the native population. As a winter storm looms over the metropolis, NKPD homicide detective Henrietta Hoffman begrudgingly partners up with mushroom-headed patrol officer Koji Nemeko to investigate the mysterious murders of fungal and half-breed children. Their investigation drags them deep into the seedy underbelly of a war-torn city, one brimming with colonizers, criminal gangs, racial division, and moral decay. In order to solve the case, unravel the truth, Hoffman must challenge her past and embrace fungal ways, which she and Nemeko uncover in the midst of this frigid wasteland will chill them to the core, but will they make it through the storm alive? I love the fantasy. I love the mystery elements. And there's a little bit of fantasy or fantastical elements or um, uh, mixed with sci-fi here, especially when it comes to the Spore War and the Korean forces and Neo Kanoko, and just like how the fungal people, how their anatomy is and how they interact with each other. So if you like Star Wars, I would say that's a really good one. It's just such an interesting one in terms of being on a different planet, humans being the colonizers, their interaction. There's just so many cool futuristic sci-fi historical enduring issues that are in this book that I absolutely found fascinating. So, like I said, unfortunately, I was reading this one at 2 different times this year when I just was absolutely crushed by work and my personal life, just being a dad and stuff. So I would have finished this one right off the bat if I had had the Kindle and Audible and it had been the summer. But I'm really excited to go and finish this one and really to get ready for a bunch of the other things that Adrian's talked about on my channel before and his channel with MJ Kuhn, SFF Addicts, really good one. So make sure you guys check that out. So I'm really excited to get to see what he has going in the future. Another one is going to be my book 6 here, and that's going to be by W.A. Simpson. And we already talked to her earlier this season at this point. And I can't wait to read Tinderbox. Her and I had an absolutely great conversation about really like connecting old mythology or original stories, different things historically for research, and really to kind of put them together into a fantasy setting. So just absolutely cool ideas that really stem from modern, like old folklore and some of the myths that we've come to know. And it just absolutely sounded amazing and right up my alley. Something that I really think would be cool, to combine different elements into a different fantasy kingdom and a story, and to really use my knowledge as a history teacher and studying, just different things over time that involves. So it really seemed like that W.A. Simpson here has done a great job setting up this great world with characters with some roots and things that we will already, be familiar with, but be able to do something really interesting and unique with them. So that's what really interests me about this one. A Tinderbox, 3 huge hounds within an underground kingdom of old magic. Fans of Sarah J. Maas and Holly Black, myth and magic, fairy tales, and fantasy will love the dark adventures of the Riven Isles. Isbeth returns home to find the witch who raised her murdered and her prized possession, the Tinderbox, stolen. She discovers a common man has used it to seize the throne, the same who conquered Prince Bram's kingdom. Isbeth's goals are vengeance and to reclaim the box. For Bram, it is to free his homeland. When they are summoned to an underground kingdom, they must set aside their personal desires as they learn dark fae are bringing an ancient source of magic back to life. If they cannot halt the rise of the old magic, it will tear them apart. It will tear the Riven Isles apart. So that to me just sounded absolutely amazing. It's not even that long of a description, but there are so many keywords there where I'm like, yep. And it just sounds like a fantastic story. If you actually check out W.A. Simpson in my interview, you can actually take a look at that. And she goes more in depth with some of these ideas. So it sounded absolutely incredible. So I had to add it to my list. Another person that I want to talk about, my book 7 for this year, is going to be Nikki McCormack. Nikki and I also had an interview earlier this year. I saw Nikki quite a few places on Facebook and stuff on social media. I was like, we got to chat about your books, the Warden's Son series. I absolutely love the cover of book 1, Child of Vanris. And her and I had a great talk about just like the world building, the magic, and the characters of this first book in particular in this series. And it sounded absolutely up my alley. So I had to add this one. At 5 years old, Casil was found with the pointed ends of his ears cut off. Despite that brutal start, he's lived 12 peaceful years with the man who took him in. Keeping his hair long over his mutilated ears helps him hide the fact that he is a Vanrian, a child of the enemy. Everything changes when mercenaries arrive hunting for Casil. The last people he expects to come to his rescue are Vanrian soldiers, one of whom claims to be his spirit brother, whatever that means. They plan to take him across the war zone to deliver him to his real father, a man whose name strikes terror in his enemies. With his secret exposed, Casil, excuse me, can't return to his old home. This is his chance to find out who he's supposed to be. It means traveling to a foreign land where they have unusual psychic abilities he may share. It also means leaving behind everything he's ever cared about. If he is to survive, he will need to learn their language and their culture and earn his place in their society. Meanwhile, the man who cut Casil's ears will do anything to keep him out of his true father's hands, even if it means killing him. So it sounded absolutely amazing. So that's definitely the one that I'm going to add on to my list. So that's my book 7. Again, make sure you check out me and Nikki's interview. Another person that I have interviewed, and this was actually at the end of season 3, was Dr. Holt. Actually, it was this season, sorry. So Dr. and I had a great conversation about his book, Project Preservation, and that's really Afrofuturism, Black sci-fi, first contact adventures. So the cover itself is just absolutely amazing. Here's the description. They said God had sent them to take us to heaven. War of the Worlds meets Black Panther. It had me there. The Paradise Planet in another galaxy that the crews of all generation ships in every sci-fi story dream of reaching is under attack from those who claim to be the forces of God. Underneath the clouds of this precious jewel, a religious war is brewing across the planet. On one side, a simple warrior race who worships one man as a messenger of the Lord. On the other, technology-embracing race would be spacefarers who wish to reach the stars and will happily initiate a war in their quest to do so. And there's Nee, who believes herself to be an ordinary working citizen in the middle of the war. She is one woman with a child, but she is prophesied to be by the dominant religion on the planet to be the savior of her world. An elderly prophet is her arch enemy, the self-proclaimed messenger who foretold the arrival of these angels. He claims the Lord has commanded him to kill the false prophet. Nay, in orbit, a giant behemoth ship the size of a sun appears, whose inhabitants claim it to be a great religious temple in the sky, here to cleanse and bring order to the turbulence below. When Nay is asked to take the mantle of savior, but flat out refuses, choosing to protect her child, she holds the fate of her entire planet in her palm. This is where it was really interesting when Dr. and I were talking, where I was like, I get that because I have a small kid and I would protect him first, no offense to everybody else. Throughout the story, her transformation from everyday citizen to something else entirely is gradual, a path reluctantly traveled as she attempts to ignore, stifle, and hide her slowly emerging powers. In time, her entire body changes into an unimaginable, unstoppable force. However, she rejects this. She denies her truth until the final crucial moments when her planet truly needs her. This tale has everything: androids, superheroes, powerful rulers, trained assassins, escaping freedom fighters, religious cults, time travel, and an angel strong enough to tear apart the planet with his bare hands. So, set in a post-apocalyptic world in another galaxy, Project Preservation is a black sci-fi first contact adventure spanning over 100,000 years with several surprises, plot twists, and unexpected moments throughout. I absolutely love the cover. DR sent me the book and a bunch of book mail with it, so make sure you definitely check that out when I drop that for my channel as well. And it was absolutely just a pleasure to talk to him, and I'm really excited to add this one to my list. So that is my book 9. That was my book 8. Book 9, I have Dawn of Wizards, and that's going to be with Jeffrey L. Kohanek. Excuse me. And Jeff and I also had an interview earlier this season 4. So this is book 1 of 3 of his Dawn of the Wizards trilogy. Before wizards, the races of magic held the power and enslaved humans. Ian and Vic are brothers. Their lives are simple, and while they might long for excitement, happiness can be found in a hard day's work, a sunny day, or a smile from a pretty girl. Their lives are turned on end when their village is attacked and they are taken as slaves, destined to labor under the watchful eye of their captors. The strife that had long dominated much of the world has found them. Things would never be the same. Listen and discover how the first wizard came to be. I absolutely love this cover. I started to listen to this one and read it about 2 or 3 months ago, and I just kind of got held up with some other things I was really trying to finish up for 2024. So I added this to my 2025 reading/listening list. So I'm really excited for this one. Jeff, if you guys have not read his books, does just absolutely amazing job of building a fantasy world based off of elements that you love, and has really cool magic systems and powers and really awesome characters. So I was really excited to add this one to my list as well this year. Next, I have another member of season 4, Colin JD Crooks with Arisen, and that is book 1 in his Shard of Aetherius book series. So far, he has 2 out. Again, this is book 1. He sent me a book mail for book 1 and 2, and I absolutely just love the cover for both. Book 1 is definitely one of my favorite covers, period. So a world ruled by living gods where they survive by devouring each other's souls. Kyber, the god of war, sends his most trusted servant, Avatar Wraith, on a suicide mission to assassinate the goddess of nature and steal her soul. Wrath's plan is to kill the heads of state, destroy a city, assassinate the goddess, and feed her soul to Kyber. Victory will purchase his transcendence. Failure will spark the Ascendancy War, a brutal multi-nation conflict. Can't read today. Can Wraith carve a bloody path and secure his lord's dominion? Or will his homeland burn in the fires of vengeance? Sink your teeth into Arisen, the first book in the Shards of Aetherius. A fast-paced, gritty tale full of brutal magics, visceral fights, blood-drinking, soul-devouring demons, and hard choices. I love dark fantasy, so this is just right up my alley. I love seeing Colin's TikToks and things like that, explaining both books. And in our interview, we had an amazing chat, so I'm really excited to see what his characters are like. I really liked what he said in terms of and like how he sold the magic system, the world building, and just the struggle with the characters and the books in general. So I'm really excited to add this one this year as well. Book 11, another member of my season 4 crew, who I actually just released last week, is going to be Stephen Ryan's The Judas Blossom. And this is book 1 of The Nightingale and the Falcon. And when we interviewed, he had an amazing time. We had an amazing time talking about if he had the Mongol Empire and mixed in fantasy elements. So you guys know me. I love the Mongols, anything like that. So an imaginative and sprawling epic fantasy reimagining of the Mongol Empire's invasion of Persia, following the lives and treacherous journeys of 4 key figures in the heart of war. 1260 Persia. Due to the efforts of the great Genghis Khan, the Mongol Empire covers a vast portion of the known world. In the shadow of his grandfather, I think it's Kublai Khan, ruler of the Ilkhanate, is determined to create a single empire that covers the entire world. His method, violence. His youngest son, Temujin Khan, struggles to find his place in his father's bloody rule. After another failure, Temujin is given one last chance to prove himself to Hulagu, who is sure there is a great warrior buried deep inside. But there's something else rippling under the surface, something far more powerful and dangerous than they could ever imagine. Reduce the position of one of Hulagu's many wives. The famed blue princess, Kokochin, is the last of her tribe. Alone and forgotten in a foreign land, Kokochin is unwilling to spend her days seeking out trivial pursuits. Seeking purpose, she finds herself wandering down a path that grants her more power than a wife of the Khan may be allowed. Kavian, the Persian rebel who despises the Mongols for the massacre of his people, thirsts for revenge. However, he knows alone he cannot destroy the empire. When given the opportunity to train under the tutelage of Hulagu, Kavian must put aside his feelings and risk his life for a chance to destroy the empire that aims to conquer the world. Family and war collide in this thrilling and bloody reimagine the Mongol Empire's invasion of Persia. So anything that's historical fiction, historical fantasy, you guys know, has my stamp. So I'm absolutely really looking forward to this one. And next I have book 12, which is going to be Hall of Bones by Tim Hardie. And Tim and I actually just had our interview drop literally this week. So make sure you guys check that out. So I have book 1 on there, The Brotherhood of the Eagle, and that again is Hall of Bones. And he was, Tim in 2021 was an SPFBO finalist for Hall of Bones. So make sure you guys check this one out. In the remote land of Lascar, the 7 ruling clans have vied with each other for power over a century. The son of the Reevesburg clan chief Hrothgar has been groomed all his life for a role supporting his elder brother Jorik in leading their kingdom when their father's time finally comes to an end. However, the rulers of the greatest rivals, the Vorum clan, are in the grip of something older and far darker. They have been conquered by evil, a remnant from the time when the gods warred with one another and the world of Ahriman collapsed into the fallen age. Everything is about to change. And it says the first book in the Brotherhood of the Eagle series, Hall of Bones, begins a tale of epic fantasy, magic, and intrigue. So Tim described in our interview as Viking fantasy, and I was just like on a different world, and I was just like, how could I not read that and add that to my list? So, sounds absolutely amazing. So I'm excited to add that one on here as well. Book 13 is going to be another duo, co-authors J.L. Yarrow. And that's going to be their book one in their Time Forward trilogy. And the book one's going to be Futures, Dark Past. And I'm really excited about this one. It says centuries after an apocalyptic war, life on Earth remains grim, especially for Kristen Winters. In a bold move, she flees brutal captivity, but she's caught sneaking into a domed city. She's forced to join a controversial group in deep space. They use a time wormhole to send clandestine teams back to alter historical events, hoping to save humanity. Little does Kristen know the fate of the world will soon depend on her. She endures growing genetic modifications to become a time traveler. In her first mission briefing, she finds out the anomaly is unstable and shrinking. The race is on to finish their quest before their opportunity is gone forever. Kristen's partner is assassinated during their jump to the past. She's inexplicably linked with Hunter Coburn, a hotshot AI scientist from the early 21st century. Yanked from his privileged life, he's thrust into dangerous dimensional jumps that reveal the horrors to come. The duo must rise to their destinies. They risk everything to fight destructive forces across the continuum. Time is running out for them in more ways than one. If they fail, all is lost. So I love time travel. I haven't read a lot of time travel books, so that's why when they approached me for this one to interview them, I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's like a different type of sci-fi than I've really focused on before or read before. But like I said, love Back to the Future and some other time travel ones. I love Looper as well. It was a great movie and great concept, so I'm actually really excited to start this one, just because of like my past interests in them. Next, we have the number 14. I have The Place of Swords and Bones, and that's a novel weird fantasy, and that's going to be G. Owen Wares. And it's so funny. I believe this is his first book. And he said, a man alone, his memory a blank, moves north across a stark and desolate plain. Though unable to recall why, he is compelled to go on, trudging steadily beneath endless star-filled sky. Before him sprawls a nightmare landscape filled with animate corpses, massive carnal heaps, dead cities, and the last remnants of a race bent on its own self-destruction. To discover his unknown destination, the lone traveler will have to face them all. I don't know, the cover is just absolutely amazing. And I love the simplicity of it. But the man himself, like not knowing like who he is or what he wants or anything, it's starts off right away as like a mystery to me. So I'm really excited to add this one and to finally be able to get to read it this year. Next is going to be 15, and that's This Thing of Darkness. And that's going to be by Alan Batchelder. And him and I had an interview that will drop later this season as well. And he sold this one to me because, first of all, Felix Ortiz did the cover. So great job, Felix, on that one. It's absolutely amazing. The description is, history tells us that William Shakespeare died in April of 1616. Or did he? What if the William Kemp who set sail from England from the New World in April of 1619 was actually the bard in disguise? How would he adjust to life in the Virginia colony? How would he interact with the Powhatans? And what if he was forced to do battle with a monster out of legend? This is the story of Shakespeare's second life. And I absolutely love when Alan and I discuss this book. It's just like, it's something crazy that I would think of and just mesh two things together and put in a different setting to get a really unique story. And he talked about how it was sticking with him for a long time, and he really felt like he had to write it. So I thought to myself, I really have to add this one. Plus, again, shout out to Felix, absolutely amazing cover. So for book 16, that's going to be Of Thieves and Shadows, and that's going to be by BSH Garcia. And for this one, I really love the cover on this one. But I really think it's overall the cover really spoke to me in terms of a lot of my fantasy roots and things like that. And I just love there's like an archaic look to the ruin that she's entering there. And I don't know, there's some mysterious people in front of her that I just got to know what's going on here. I love the description. We were supposed to have an interview a while back. My son was sick, so I'm hoping that we get to one soon. I have a slot saved for BSH Garcia, so I'm really excited to get to this one, and really to get to dive deeper and ask her some, really good questions about this one. But I'm hoping to get to this book really soon. Some secrets are best left to the shadows. But shadows have a mind of their own. The ancient land of Kyneria teeters on the brink of war as its most precious resource is unearthed and exploited. Three nations have maintained tenuous peace for centuries, but as the life-giving Nethium dwindles, rumors of an ancient evil, long thought dead, spread like wildfire. Alicia never wanted to lead. As the High Chieftain's only surviving heir, she's thrust into a role that jeopardizes the already fragile peace. A deadly attack on the day of her induction strengthens her resolve, and her suspicion that her parents' murders and these disturbing rumors are connected. With newfound companions, she embarks on a journey to uncover the truth. But as they unravel layers of secrets, they find themselves in the clutches of a dictator whose unethical Nethium experimentation threatens to bring about a new world of terror and violence. Alicia and her allies could be all that stands between war and a dying world. Their conflicting ambitions don't destroy them first. So to me, this always sounds like a great D&D adventure, and I have to absolutely know what happens. So again, that's going to be book 1 of 2 of The Heart of Kyneria. I'm probably saying that wrong, but looks cool. Sounds great. So make sure you check out Of Thieves and Shadows. You guys know me. I love me some thieves. Even though I hate crime, which is really ironic. But it's always fun in a fantasy and sci-fi setting. So for my next book, in terms of book 17, that's going to be Stellar Air by Scott Killian. Scott and I had our interview as well here for season 4. So I'm really excited to be able to share that with you guys. So make sure you check that out. And I'm really excited about this one because I absolutely love the concept that Scott and I are talking about. So I'm going to read his description here, explain why. J.K. Corva hadn't anticipated becoming the galaxy's most wanted. I just love that tagline. First of all, he hadn't planned on picking up a strange alien artifact either, but once it clasped around his wrist, Jail was granted extraordinary abilities. His senses were heightened, his reflexes faster, and he could now regenerate from damage that would spell the end of others. Abilities that would have been coveted even during his days as a warrior monk. Again, you know me. Love me some warrior monks, about as much as thieves. Now, working as a scavenger, these powers were a boon, especially when forces from every corner of the stars wanted Jail's artifact for themselves and would not stop at nothing. And will stop at nothing to get it. What initially appears as an advantage swiftly transforms into a weighty charge. Yet it's a charge Jail accepts without hesitation, understanding the catastrophic, I can't talk today, potential should the relic fall into the wrong hands. Prodded onward by visions of an ancient ally and a mysterious enemy, Jail becomes a pivotal piece in a vast interstellar play of power and dominion in a galaxy on the brink of war. A high-octane space opera that blends adrenaline-fueled martial arts with interstellar thriller. Stellar Air is a Mass Effect meets John Wick, perfect for fans of sci-fi like Sun Eater by Christopher Racchio or Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I don't even know if I have to tell you why I want to read it because I read the description. And if you saw Warrior Monk in space and you weren't automatically down, I don't know what I have to say about Mass Effect meets John Wick as well. So those are the reasons why it sounds amazing to me. So make sure you check out, again, me and Scott's interview on this channel because it was really good. And he sounds really knowledgeable, and I'm really excited to read all of his books. Number 18, The Head of the Class by Jason J. Willis and Dao Wong. I actually had an interview with Jason first and then Dao as well. I had to interview them separately, but that's fine. I'm hoping to get them on together really soon, as well as Dao's other co-writer for another series set in the same universe, David R. Packer. So I was lucky to interview the 3 of them. So Jason just happened to be first. So I added this co-author book by him and Dao. So that's going to be Head of the Class. And I absolutely love this cover. It's one of my favorite ones that I've seen this year so far, and including 2024. Head of the Class is a lit RPG adventure in the system Apocalypse. And it's Liberty Book 1. Standardized testing is so much worse in the Apocalypse. Caleb Hansen assumed the most exciting part of his field trip scouting in northern Minnesota would be a rare bird sighting. Instead, he was abducted by hive-minded hexapods and forced to be their children's teacher. Not the worst way to ride out the end of the world. 2 years later, the apocalypse has finally come for Caleb. His savior captors are murdered, leaving him as the last line of defense for the alien children he's grown to know and love. Now he'll have to bend his values or watch his students die, all while dealing with untrustworthy allies, ravenous monsters, honorable bounty hunters, and worst of all, xenophobic militants. Between idealism and practicality lies hope for the future if he can find the strength to pass his final test. Head of the Class is the first book in the System Apocalypse Liberty series and is set in the best-selling System Apocalypse universe. It is an apocalyptic lit RPG series that combines science fiction and fantasy elements with game mechanics. The series contains levels up, experience, a snarky AI, shield, bot, companion, monsters, both human and otherwise, and a larger-than-life cast of characters. I'm a teacher. It sounded amazing. I totally get helping my alien children, students, or whatever you want to call them, and helping them survive. So for me, it just sounded awesome. Caleb sounds really cool. Sounds very similar to me, except maybe a little wimpier. Wink, wink there. But it's interesting. And then for me, it really sounded like the other main character, that the two of them are kind of very similar to me in different ways. So it's like two halves of the same coin. So I'm really interested to see how these two characters interact to help save these children together. So to me, it just sounded absolutely amazing. So I'm really excited for that to be my 18th book for the year. 19, I was able to interview both Casey Ezell and Marisa Wolf, and they have their, excuse me, sorry, I'm trying to go down here. It's being weird. So I'm really interested in reading Blood of Her Father, and that is in their Ashes of Antasia, I think is how you say it. Probably saying it wrong. Sorry, ladies. But the cover itself was like absolutely amazing. And this is going to be part of the reason why I want to read this series is Casey and Chris have their Ashes of Antasia series. And I actually really want to read Casey's solo book, The Queen's Fixer, and then her and Chris Kennedy's book, The King's Daughter, as well as The Conqueror's Promise. And then they have an anthology too, Remnants of Empire. So this is going to be like the 5th book set in this world. So I'm really excited to really enter this. This is kind of going back to my fantasy sci-fi roots here. So I'm really excited about this one, but Blood of Her Father looks absolutely incredible. The cover is just like old school sci-fi. And it's one of my favorite that the company's brought out so far. So Issane, born the bastard son of a tyrant king, Issane took power to save her people from her father's madness and ambition. However, the young queen of Satyrian must now learn to rule a world where truths are complicated and motives are anything but clear. Caroline, married to a king to protect her family, she is now relegated to the position of the queen's most hated counselor. With her family's security slipping further and further from her grasp, she must now forge a new path to the power and safety she spent her whole life seeking. But when palace politics spill over into Issane's royal heartbreak and the result in a severe economic crisis for the people of Satyrian, these two women must find common ground and form an alliance to secure Issane's right to rule not only in kingdom, but her thoughts, her choices, and even her own life. Can two enemies work together, or will they forever be divided by the blood of her father? Sounded absolutely incredible. I'm really excited to read this one, and I think I'm really going to enjoy it. In terms of talking to both of them, we had just an absolutely amazing time. So I really want you guys to make sure that you check out our interview. But that's why Blood of Her Father is going to be my 19th book for the year. Next is going to be my 20th book for the year, which is going to be Umbra by Amber Toro. Amber and I had a great conversation also in season 4, so make sure you be on the lookout for that one as well. And Umbra, Sentient Stars, that's going to be book 1 of her Sentient Stars book series here. Umbra is the first book in the trilogy. Umbra is the first book in the Sentient Stars trilogy, an intergalactic space opera adventure story with a slow burn, enemies to lovers romance told from 3 POVs with fully sentient starships. That's the thing I really care about. A militaristic society, alien worlds, and a signal in the darkness that threatens to destroy humanity. Earth that has faded into myth. After millennia spent wandering, humans are no longer nomads. 12 tribes stand allied under the United Tribal Axis, but there is a signal in the darkness that threatens to destroy everything. All Skyla wanted after leaving the Navy was to be left alone, just her ship, the stars, and a new adventure. But when a strange virus disables her ship, she is thrown to the middle of a conflict she doesn't understand, forcing her to take on responsibilities she swore she never would again. Excuse me. Getting over being sick, sorry. Hinata always followed the rules, honor above all else. He always won until he didn't. Sentenced to exile for his failures, he is determined to prove himself until a mysterious woman arrives on his station and chaos threatens to break already fragile alliances. Freya was always angry, an outcast playing the part of admiral and Black Ops operative, but she is tired of being a pawn in the Empress's games, and when she's stranded on the wrong side of the enemy lines, after a vengeful battle, she's forced to ally with her adversaries to clear her name. A rogue, a commander, and an admiral brought together by circumstances, held together by duty. Can they find a way to work together to save humanity? So when Amber and I had our interview, it just was so interesting to me with how she set up the Sentient Stars trilogy, with how she also set up her sentient ships and how they kind of grew with their person, with their chosen pilot, and everything just sounded really cool and right up my alley in terms of this type of science fiction story and tropes and characters. So I'm really, really excited about that one. In terms of my part two, I'm running out of time today. It took a little bit longer than I thought, but that's okay. So this is part one of my 2025 reading list that I planned out so far. I actually knocked down like 3 books in a whole separate series that I'll talk about at the end here already in 2025. And I have a couple other books that I was interested in that I didn't get to in this one, more than a couple, because I'm trying to get to about 52, if not 60 this year. So I am going to talk about the other half of my list, which really runs 21 to 52. So it'll be a little bit longer video. I might even split that up in half and make it 3 parts. But I want to make sure you guys check out at least part 2, if not the part 2 and 3, if I have to split it up, just so you can see the other authors. I'm going to leave just like I'm trying to figure out how I want to do a description because there are a lot of books and things. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably put a list of the people in their book, and then you guys can go to our interview and then go to the description for each of them and check out my interview with them, or go right to their website. But I want to make sure you guys are checking out these authors as well as the other creators that we've had on so far for season 4, as well as our other seasons. But I'm really proud of what we've done so far for season 4 and who we've been able to interview, the books we've been able to talk about. But again, please make sure you check out in the description, the authors, the books, and then also check out part 2 as well, if I have to do a part 3 for my reading list of 2025, because there's some absolutely amazing people on there that worked really, really hard. Please make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel. That way, we can try and get to our 1K. That's really going to be my push for 2026. I really want to get to 1K before the end of the year. So I'm a little more over half of that, very little over half. So please make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, share. I'll have some seminars and a bunch of cool things after I'm done filming the rest of season 4, which will be between this month and next month. So I'll have a ton of different videos, different workshops and things with different authors, different creators on here for the rest of this year. So 2025 is actually be a pretty big year for this podcast. So don't forget, I also have a bunch of other episodes from season 1 through 3. I'm starting to put up book reviews as well as just some journal writing tips, things like that I've just been discussing with other people, or just things I want to bring up, or things I just find that are interesting. So again, please make sure you check out the rest of the channel, and please make sure you check out our authors and creatives. If you find something or watch something or read something of theirs, or find their comic or something somewhere, please make sure that you are reviewing those products, because that's the #1 way that you can really help out our authors and creatives. And that's really the only reason that we're here. So other than interest for fantasy, sci-fi, and those other elements, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And per usual, happy reading, my friends. Make sure you check out the next part of the video. See you later.